Hey, welcome to 24/7 Comics Live. Here we are again. I am Carl Choi, your humble host, and as always, joined by my lovely host, Sarah. What's up, Sarah?
Hey everybody, how we doing?
Not much. It's been a long weekend. We got two special guests today, Mr. Brian Ching as well as Will Quintana. What's up, guys?
Hey Carl, hey
You guys
Sarah.
doing?
What's up, guys? I'd love for you to just right off the bat tell us what you do, what you've been up to. We've really been looking forward to this episode because you're two of the main reasons I got into comics. And then I met Carl, and he is kind of guiding me and everyone else through this journey. So if you could just briefly tell us what you do, what you're up to, and maybe how long you've been up to it.
Brian.
Okay, I'll go first.
Yeah,
Hi, I'm
please.
Brian Ching. I've worked in comics for a little over 25 years as a penciler, inker. Worked on titles such as Star Wars, Knights of the Old Republic, Conan the Avenger, Supergirl, things like that. And I am the artist and co-creator of Zero Ghost.
Woo!
Hey everyone, my name is Will Quintana, and I am the colorist on Zero Ghost. I've been a colorist for about, same as Brian, about 25, 26 years maybe. I've worked at Cross Gen Comics. I don't know if anyone still remembers Cross Gen from back in the day. But that's pretty much where I got most of my professional start. And I've also colored for Marvel. I've done such books as Exiles, X-Men, Avengers. For DC, I've done Green Lantern, New Guardians, Action Comics, Wonder Woman, Superman, and I'm currently coloring Blue Beetle.
That's so exciting. So for those of you unfamiliar, we've been working on Kickstarters. We've been like so excited for Zero Ghost. But if people are just joining this journey, can you guys tell us a little bit just what is this all about?
I'll go. Okay, well.
Sure.
So Zero Ghosts takes place in a fictionalized version of Hong Kong, and it's we're into the criminal underworld that's run by 5 different families, and our main character is Kira Kane, and she is the daughter of one of the fathers of one of the 5 families, and so the story revolves around her being kidnapped pretty early on, and her fighting her way through and trying to find out what happened to her and what happened to the rest of her family. And that's sort of the arc. I don't want to give away too much, but that's sort of the arc. And it has a magic vibe, a criminal underworld vibe. All the families use magic to enhance their way through the world. Yeah, I don't want to give away too much, so I don't know. I think I'll leave it at that for now.
Yeah, I like to
Yeah.
say it's like John Wick meets Hannah meets Big Trouble in Little China, taking place in near futuristic Hong Kong. That's
It's
my
totally crazy because I was just discussing this with a friend. I was very excited for this episode specifically, and I'm like, it's like Blade Runner and crime and magic and sci-fi and manga. And I know I'm not giving away too much because I don't even know too much, but you've already developed an entire universe. So that alone is so intriguing because we have just like barely reaching the beginning of something that's going to be so fully developed. And just kind of like, is this your typical project? I know you've had a lot of like big name works for both of you, and that's pretty much like, okay, we're doing another story for these well-known characters. But how does this kind of differ from those projects?
It's it's a little bit different to build from the ground up, I think, because none of it was visualized yet. So along with our writer, Justin Jordan, and with Carl, we spent something like close to 2 months designing all the characters initially, just to see that we were all on the right page and the right direction and having the right vibe for everything. So it was a pretty in-depth process to start with, but yeah, after that, everything went pretty quickly, and then Will and I started talking about the colors, and we were sharing things back and forth. I'm a big fan of an artist named, excuse me, Matthew Lefray. He's a French comic artist / painter, and I think Will, I sent you a bunch of his stuff from his book Axis Mundi, as well as there's another artist named Bengal, comic artist, and he draws and paints all his own stuff. And so that's kind of how Will and I got started with the visuals of it, right? And then Will just kind of like just took it and ran with it.
Okay.
Yeah,
let me piggyback on that. Will, like, what was that? Like when Brian sent you those inspiration points, like, did you react to them? Were you familiar with their work? Did you have other inspiration that you were able to pull in from it?
No, I wasn't actually familiar with their work. I think I had seen some of Bengal's covers, like the stuff he had done for Marvel, but I wasn't too familiar with his work before then, and I was blown away by it. Like the mood and the lighting that was created, the level of depth with warm and light colors in order to bring some figures forward and push other figures back and stuff like that. So yeah, that's definitely something that I tried to incorporate quite a bit into Zero Ghost as well. Like you'll see a really good example of it in the ash can in the first double page spread where Kira is just like, I mean, listen, I'm not giving too much away because the ash can's out, guys. So, she's just like going to town on a bunch of like, elite, soldiers and stuff. And, that was like, I think one of the first images that I worked on with Brian, that was like, that would be a prime example of some of the work that he had sent to me, and that's pretty much what I used as a template and tried to follow throughout.
Okay. Well, let's dive into it then. I mean, sorry, Sarah.
I just have one quick question for you, Will, because I was just reading, obviously there was like the whole digital change where like old comics have like just those 4 colors. Then we get into introducing all these new colors. But now flash forward to you creating with Brian. Did you guys have like a specific color palette you were working within, or were you kind of going more on the vibes of the story here?
I'd say with the exception of the powers, the unique sort of abilities of the families, I used some colors and some hues to try to represent the uniqueness of each family. But aside from that, no, I would say we just tried to set a lot of mood and atmosphere and use the city as a backdrop for a lot of that as well. So yeah, I really picked up a lot on coloring neon during this run, So yeah, and I've actually grown fond of it. Really, there's the cover to number 2 actually was one of the first times that I integrated this technique for the neon and stuff, and I was really happy. I was really happy with the way that particular cover turned out. So yeah, I felt like I was getting more into a comfort zone as far as like the color for the city and stuff like that at that point.
Okay.
It's crazy to see something that you could describe as so dark and so colorful at the same time. And that's that mood that you guys just knocked it out.
Yeah, I agree. Let's show the audience what we're talking about, Sarah, because I think, we're here today specifically to talk about the art of Zero Ghost. I think we did have Justin Jordan here previously to talk about, the book as a whole, the story, some previews behind it. But to the audience on Twitter as well as on YouTube, I think on Instagram as well, we want to take you on a bit of a journey. So we're going to kind of bounce between Brian and Will today, and we're going to go into the works of the line art. Then we're going to dive into some of the coloring processes. And we want to hear from you guys. And, we'll ourselves react to a lot of this as well. So, Patrick, why don't you bring up kind of a process number 1? Let's start with like the process number 1, which is some of the line art. And Brian, if you don't mind, kind of talk us through the process and what we're seeing here.
So this is me sketching out our main mercenary character, Calder. And this is me just getting general shapes right now. I like to work in blue pencil just because it's much easier to erase after and the scanner doesn't pick it up. Um, so this is me just kind of going with very basic shapes right now just to get a feel for the mood of the character. Just little shapes here and there. So you can see his jaw is very square. His skull is actually a little incomplete at this moment. It's a little short, but he's got the pointed nose. Yeah, so at this point, this is me just, you just kind of go off instinct at this point. You're not too worried about making mistakes. You're just kind of letting the pencil glide over the paper and just kind of like find your shapes. When I reach a certain point, I'll start to refine it a little, but right now it's still quite early.
So part of the shape is found through this process, you're saying. So often when I think about an artist, I think they already kind of have a clear thought of what they're gonna see, and they just go for it. So you're telling me that this is actually part of the process of finding that form.
Yeah, I have a vague idea of what I want to do. Gun over the shoulder, kind of gripping the handle in a certain way, and I have just a rough idea of what I want to do, and I'm just kind of finding it right now. I think you'll see that I start to erase a bit of it as I see the shapes I like better. It's still quite early. Yeah, I have a mirror on my desk, which you obviously can't see here, but I'll kind of like put my hand up to see the hand shapes and try and get that correct as I go along.
You're also kind of like in any kind of animation illustration, you can bend all the rules of gravity, of reality, of all these things like a live actor could just never accomplish. And you just have this beautiful way of capturing that.
I think that's the fun part of comics, right? You could just play around with proportion. I mean, people of this size don't really exist in the world. And if you could kind of make it believable enough, it kind of works. And yeah, it's just sort of like fill someone's imagination, I guess, for what the characters are. And that's one kind of aspect of my drawing that I like, is I like to leave things kind of simplified here and there, not overly detailed, because your mind does complete things on its own. So when they see a certain type of image, like a simplified image, you will start to like fill in the blanks here and there. And so that's a little bit of what I try and do with the characters.
It does. It makes it look and feel so much more real than something you would see in real life. At least for me, but maybe you guys too. That's why we love these worlds.
Yeah, let's go process 3. Yeah, kind of piggybacking off what Sarah's saying. I'm kind of curious too, as we're watching this. This is now a little bit more form, right? And I always think artists have references. Are you looking at pictures? Are you thinking about somebody? Like, what's the reference here?
I think I might have referenced the gun, but everything else I'm just kind of going off of feel or just experience. So yeah, the initial process was the blue pencil and sort of finding general shapes here and there, and now I'm going in with a black lead pencil and just defining things more. So for when I go to inks, I could just see little details here and there. That's sort of the difference between when I was just penciling and handing off to an inker. You couldn't hand something like this off to someone because they just couldn't see what was going on. So you'd have to really, really refine it. But since I'm going to be the inker, I'm just giving myself little, I guess, ciphers, they call them, just little points here and there for me to see where I want to go. The important shape for me are the peaks. There's certain peaks and angles that I'm looking for. You can see like the back of his head, sort of behind the ear. There's a peak right there. There's a peak at his nose. Sort of like, those are the general shapes I'm looking for when I draw.
Oh, I love this. This is cool. I don't have that
so
shape.
Relaxing. I'm just like, wow.
I don't have that shape in the back of my head because my parents didn't buy me a helmet when I was
You were
playing.
dropped on the other side.
So I mean,
Oh.
well, you worked in the bullpen, and I always hear about these stories. You guys all working in the bullpen. When you watch Brian's work style, like how does it compare to some of the folks that you worked with before?
I love it. I love it. Like the bullpen environment. Let's see. I had done that actually at Valiant back in the '90s. I was interning there, so I didn't get a lot of opportunity to actually see a lot of the guys in action. Sometimes like part of production would be correcting some art and stuff like that. Oh man, but there was this one cat, Annibal Rodriguez, that like killed it on inks. He did this issue of Armor Marines that I'd never seen anything like it before, as far in terms of ink.
Who was this again?
Annibal Rodriguez. He's not in the industry anymore, but he did a few books for Valiant and for Marvel and for DC for a minute. He was an inker. But I mean, his stuff was like, it just blew me away when I first saw it. So that was like one of the best experiences that I got working at the bullpen at Valiant at the time. Okay. But mostly like production was just, us cleaning film and stuff like that and getting it ready to go to press.
And speaking of bullpen, how was your bullpen experience like, Brian, at Top Cow? Like, was this kind of the same process you've always subscribed to, or did you kind of adapt based on like watching how Silvestri work or some of the, Mr. Michael Turner work? Like how those, like, did you pull anything from them and what they were doing at the time?
I probably did, maybe not consciously, but yeah, I had the very good fortune of being in the Top Cow studio, like you said, seeing Mark draw, seeing Dave Finch draw, see Joe Benitez, Mike Turner, and everyone. There's similarities, but there's a lot of differences as well. Like for instance, Dave Finch is insane with anatomy. His understanding of anatomy is incredible, and he could just start drawing. He would rough in the figure a little bit, but from then on he could just go. Whereas other people would refine the rough a lot. I don't know if I'm explaining it correct, but it seems like Dave didn't need much prep time. He could just kind of go in there and then lightly erase everything and just start with the muscles, all the anatomy. And you'd be like, how do you know how everything works so well? Because everything is layered so perfectly. Everything's lit so properly. And so I'm sure that I probably picked up some things process-wise from them. But yeah, I think for me, it was just fun seeing how the guys worked. And yeah, it was a real treat. One thing I think I remember is seeing the way Mark Silvestri. So sometimes when you're working on something, like say a face, you rough it in, you'll draw it, and then something won't be quite right, so you'll lightly erase and try and tweak, and you'll go again. And the interesting thing that I would see with Mark was that he would erase it completely and start over again.
Interesting.
Right. Yeah, he would erase completely and start over, so that it seemed like none of it was influencing his decisions. Just kind of like cleaning the board and starting fresh again. And the funny thing is that his stuff was never really wrong to begin with. It was like always amazing. So when you see him erase things, you'd be like, what are you doing? It's already perfect. But yeah, that was very cool seeing that.
Now, do you also work digitally? Like, you seem like, I mean, this is incredible, but there's so many different ways to achieve the end game. What is your strategy typically?
On Zero Ghost, it's entirely traditional.
Wow.
It's entirely like this. Of course, I do the scan and the cleanup digital. So after, like, say this word page, I'd scan it and you do a cleanup so that all the pencil lines kind of go away. There's still like a little bit here and there, but it's making it clean for reproduction. And then sometimes I will add some special effects digitally, sort of like ink splatter, or I will clean things up with white to kind of take away some lines here and there. But for the most part, say like 99% of the work is still traditional.
Is
It's
that
so
something
cool.
you're finding to be more rare nowadays? Like you guys are out there in the world. That seems rare to me, but
I don't know. Is the trend that it's coming back now? I saw that
Yeah, I was just
like
about to say that traditional is coming back with ferocity, you know, especially with the threat of the AI stuff, you know, like now people are, I mean, it's like what we're experiencing now watching Brian work, you know, you want to actually see it sometimes. You want to see it done. You don't want to, you know, AI art is just a bunch of prompts, you know. It's like it's just I don't know, man. It's just stolen material from other from people that have worked and had to train at this for like decades. You know, people that are still learning how to do it. You know, and it's, you know, I don't know. It's insulting. It's insulting, the whole AI trend. So now that's why a lot of artists are like, okay, you know, we got to take it back to the old school and show them how it's done and show them what we went to school for and what we trained for, you know. So sorry, don't mean to be on a rant, but
yeah, no, that is a huge topic.
yeah. I mean, it's a threat. It's a threat. You know, imagine, you know, there's AI that can all of a sudden, you know, take Brian's black and white and then suddenly color it. Where will I be at that point?
And
You
then
know,
just the cost that could mean financially when people are just producing things like that on the side, like this perfectly sculpted, hand drawn, like, is that going to drive the cost of those so that it's unaffordable for people like me to get actually drawn artwork? I mean, it could definitely do a lot of things to the whole industry.
Well,
So,
I for one, I'm sorry. I just want to
all
say
good,
that
all good.
I for one am enjoying seeing, you know, like
Yeah, I'm loving
traditional
watching this.
art coming
Exactly.
back. You know,
Exactly what I was
so
gonna say. It's like kind of going back to just what we're looking at here today. The traditional aspect of this is, I think, what makes Zero Ghost so special. So Brian, why do you drop upside down?
I think everyone has a natural way that their hand flows when they draw.
Okay.
Some people can go right to left, up and down, whatever. I think that I tend to go left to right.
Got it.
Unless this is proving me wrong, but
that's so funny. It's so funny because I'm constantly rotating the image too. It's just a thing, man.
Right?
That's
Oh,
what
it's
we
a
do.
thing. I
We
didn't know
rotate
that.
the
Cool.
image. Yeah, that's,
Yeah,
you know, it's just lines to us in a lot of ways. You know.
You have the big picture in your head already.
Yeah.
For us,
Yeah,
we're like,
so,
whoa.
yeah.
got it. So the form
so
is
funny.
created from here. The blue lines and the pencils are established kind of the shape, and now you're refining it, right? So when you're in refinement, are you not looking at the big picture anymore? You're just looking at like little sections. Is that why you could kind of keep it turning as you're working?
So right now I'm just looking at the details of the rifle. That's it. So for me, I think I throw straight lines like this, left to right, and you kind of pivot at the elbow, not the wrist. And so that keeps my lines relatively straight. And so that's why I was doing it like that right there. Yeah, I guess here I'm trying to find straight lines for the magazine clip. Yeah, that's why I'm doing that.
And quick beginner's question, the ink weight, that's like what we're looking at right here. Like, you're using different ink weights to kind of like refine and bring out the detail of this image?
Right. Just like roughly, you try and do the, I guess the basic line would be the contour line, and then you're just in general saying that light is coming from above, so all the bottom lines would be heavier. So like this part would be heavier ink than the upper part of the forearm, things like that, because you're just kind of generically saying that light is coming from the top. So that's a little bit of what I'm doing there. You can see a little bit there with the hand on the rifle grip that it's casting a shadow sort of down. Well, it's upside down now, but yeah, whenever I turn it back over, it's you sort of get weight that way, where the character feels like a little bit more grounded. This is just the details of the front of the rifle.
How are you guys doing on like carpal tunnel at this point? How are your hands feeling?
I think
or are they
Will.
just desensitized?
I don't think.
Don't ask.
Don't ask. Oh no, I thought I
Yeah.
had it bad. Now I feel weak.
Is this a soft tip or a hard tip? What do you use? Is it blunt? I can't tell.
It's an ink
Can
pen,
you
right?
see this? Is this not coming up? Oh, here it is.
Okay. So it is like a hard ink brush?
Yeah, this one is they're Japanese calligraphy brushes. So
Oh,
this
cool.
one is a synthetic tip. And where's my other one? This one is natural. Tip.
What are the
you're
differences
jumping
in the
around.
effects that you get with between the synthetic and the natural?
Synthetic doesn't last long. Seems like it lasts me like a month, maybe 2 months before the tip starts to go. And the natural, which is I think weasel hair, seems to last quite a long time. And you get a finer tip.
Okay, yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. So you get a finer tip with the weasel hair as opposed to the synthetic?
You do. You get a truer tip longer. Whereas the synthetic one will get saturated at some point, and then the tip will be hard to control.
Gotta get real weasel.
Do you use the synthetic for like blacking in like a lot of large areas? Is that what it's predominantly for?
I do. I don't think I have them here, but I sort of. Here we go. So like, this would be my main one, and then this one with the 2 tape marks would be like worn to a different stage, and this one would be just for filling blacks only.
Okay, very cool.
And then you see a lot of guys use these on like Instagram, Pentel something pen. I forgot what it's called. And this one is great because the ink flow is very slow, so you get a lot of dry brush with this one.
Right.
So this one
I noticed that on a lot of the pages. Yeah, it's a great texture. Brush
on the face details. I think you'll see it, sort of the bristles and all that. Yeah,
totally. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I love it.
So question. So you are real quick here now. I see you busting out the whiteout, but I want to kind of take a couple steps back. Do you use any specific type of blue pencils or just even the lead itself? I would love for the audience to, be able to chime in as well. So I know we got a good amount of folks on X and then some on YouTube. If you guys have any questions, don't let Sarah and I hog up the airspace. Feel free to chime in, and then our team member Sean will be more than happy to facilitate any questions on your behalf.
I do use these uni. I use a larger size. I use a 0.7 lead, blue pencil lead. And then I do like these lead holders, which are, I think this is aluminum. So there's a bit of weight to it, which I do like. So it helps me throw lines more easily. And yeah, it's just personal. You kind of find which tools you like over time. You see, like when you watch Jim Lee drawing or something, he'll use specific tools, and it's just things that people just get comfortable with. Whatever weight, whatever size fits their hand better.
Now, does everyone do the blues and then the lead afterwards, or is that something that you've kind of adopted? I feel like I've only seen one or the other.
Most guys that I've seen don't use blue. They just go with black, and they just keep refining till they get something. Just for me, blue is easier to see, easier to see the initial rough more quickly.
Nice.
And I should clarify, guys, that I mentioned like Valiant, but when it came to CrossGen, yes, there was a bullpen, and that was actually a great studio. There were a lot of great artists there and that's why I'm asking Brian all these questions now. I'm actually kind of being thrown back to that era because yeah, these were the type of questions that we would ask each other and stuff, and we'd look over each other's shoulder to see what the other what the other, because the bullpen was broken up into these little quads, and each book or each team was in a quad. So we'd go over and see what the other team was doing, what they were up to on the book and stuff like that. So yeah, just to like step back a little bit. Yeah, that was the bullpen environment for me at CrossGen. And wow, just seeing Brian's work now is just like really bringing me back to that.
Yeah, man, it's breathtaking, man. Brian, you are a master. So let's do a little bit of a transition. I mean, let's talk about color. So now it's funny because Sarah asked about digital. So you do kind of work in some digital. So we'd love to, let us know what you're doing here, and then I have some questions about past colorists you've worked with as well, and want to kind of see where you drew and what you've learned from that in your past last 25 years.
Color is pretty new to me. I've actually not worked with much color until maybe the last few years, especially with the iPad just making it so easy to just jump on. I remember before when I was first starting out, everyone's like, "Oh, you need a Cintiq, a Wacom, and all that. You need all this tech to create digital art." And now, if you could just get an iPad, and the app I'm using is Procreate. And Procreate, when I bought it initially, I think it was $5 or $7 or something like that. I think they're up to like 15 or 20 bucks now. But initially it was quite expensive to get into. And so I just started experimenting. And then for a lot of Zero Ghost characters, I was doing this, and this was the stuff I was sending to Will actually. Before we kind of talked about the colors well. But yeah, it's just me just kind of choosing. I think early on, our writer Justin decided that this character Calder would be a redhead. And so I think I used a little bit of the Game of Thrones guy. I'm blanking out on his name now.
From the north.
Yeah, I can't remember his name now.
What is his name?
But I'm using him as a little bit of red.
Whoever in the audience know his name?
Yeah, somebody give him a shout.
I just started rewatching it too.
I'm like racking my brain trying to remember his name. Claygor? Oh no, not Claygor. No, forget it. Anyway, it's fun to watch.
Tormund Giantsbane.
Is that it? That's it, right?
Tormund Giantsbane. Yeah, okay. I get the free Zero Ghost Ashcan. Okay. So you've worked with a ton of colors too, Brian. I mean, folks from Michelle Matson to Michael Ateye to Kelly Fitzpatrick. Like, what was it like working with them, versus working with Will? What was the collaborative process like?
Most colorists that I've worked with, I have not had much interaction with them, to be honest.
Oh.
You are subject to the editors. I mean, you work for hire, so the editor's the boss, so the editor's deciding the final look of things. So we've even had projects where the editor made changes to something I had drawn and didn't tell me about it afterwards, which was kind of a surprise because I would have made the change. But usually I'm assuming it's a timing thing that they have to get it done right away. But yeah, I think Will and I, it's similar to Mike Atiyah and I worked together for like 10 years or so on Star Wars projects. So we became really good friends, and it's not that different from Will and I working, where we talk about what direction the scene should go. Here's the ref I looked at when I drew it. and just sort of take it and run with it. I know me personally, I don't like to give too much direction. I like the colorist to see what I was looking at. Like, for instance, this is nighttime and there's an explosion in the background. So this kind of light should be hitting them. There should be embers in the foreground, whatever, something like that to give it some detail. But I'd really like the colorists to kind of find their own, because if not, I think they're just not enjoying it if they're just being dictated to the whole time. And so, yeah, I feel like working with Will has been incredible, because I think, you know, Carl, when we get the emails that Will says pages 2 and 3 are up, and we click on it, and it's like, holy crap.
The email becomes like a live chat of like reactions.
Right.
It seems so collaborative, but then who's deciding, for the most part, the panel configurations?
Oh, yeah, that would be me. I mean, you know, we get a script, obviously, from Justin, and Justin has maybe a certain points of the story he wants to focus on, and so I'll make that a focal point of when I'm designing the page, designing the panel layout, designing the composition, and things like that. Yeah, actually, when we start each issue, I will thumbnail the entire issue, and so you do like a, I don't know, how big is that? A 3x4 inch sketch of every single page, and I send it to the group, to Carl, to Justin, to Will, and yeah, we just sort of go over it, see if there's any issues with anything, and yeah, that's the other highlight too, is that Justin is really mellow on that stuff. So Justin's like, yeah, go with it. Yeah, he's pretty positive about everything.
Yeah, definitely, you guys, if you didn't catch that, there is an even more in-depth storyline review with the writer as well. So definitely check out 24/7 on YouTube. Also, we haven't even told you guys to subscribe and follow, because we're going to keep this going. There's so much more to share.
Yep, just like Sarah says, subscribe and follow. You haven't done so already. Just
And hit that like button.
Click a comment. Exactly, like button. Just press all the buttons.
Clearly, I
Oh,
watch
just
a lot of YouTube
minus
while I
the
work,
thumbs down.
you know?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
So, Will, I mean, essentially,
Well, even
we're
the thumbs
looking at-
down, it helps the algorithm, apparently.
Yeah, anything,
Okay, yeah, we
any
don't like us then. It's
interaction.
fine.
Does it?
So,
It's all about the algorithm, right? Because it's all about like attention, who's seeing it really. So thumbs down, thumbs up. You know, it's all about. It's no, you know.
I'm,
But anyway,
I'm
whatever.
also
Too
hearing
much.
that.
I spend too much time alone working.
Oh, there
Sorry.
we go. There's Mary chatting. So whoever is watching, and you could use the chat as well. Go ahead and say hi. We want to kind of test it out real quick, because some people are saying they can't chat for some reason. So if you can chat, please show us you can chat, and yeah, we'll continue this interview and this exploration. So, Will, I had a question for you. In essence, like, Brian's creating a bit of a color guide for you on the characters. Is this normal? Is this something that you prefer? Does this give you a clearer picture of what he's looking for? Like, what are your reactions to these type of, kind of guides when it comes to character design?
I love them, honestly, because it means I have to think a lot less, honestly. Because all joking aside, like, there can be instances where I might have something in mind for a character, and then I'll send it in, but it's not particularly what the writer or the illustrator might have had in mind. So, you know, then it's back to the drawing board. So I'd rather actually get specific reference, because it really does speed the process along. And, you know, that's one thing in this business. It's time. Time is everything. And so anything that helps to speed the process along, anything that helps as a guide, I love it. You know, photo reference. I mean, I'm always digging up reference for stuff. I can't just always like pull it out of my head for the most part. I'll look at, I've got books, photo reference books, all that sort of stuff, just for, you know, for color and stuff. So, yeah, whatever, you know, the more the merrier. The more Brian can send, the merrier I am. Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah,
love
like
it.
I mean, I'll hit Brian up for reference. If there's like a page and I'm like, okay, well, I want to know what Brian was thinking in the part. Like much like his working with Mike, because Mike and I both worked at Cross Gen. So that's probably something we picked up from that studio environment. We worked closely, very closely as a team. So, we were always talking with one another about what they wanted to see, what the overall vision would be for the book when it came out. So yeah, so stuff like this is always great.
And Will, we were
Mhm.
chatting a little bit when we were gearing up for this. You were
Yeah.
telling me that you weren't always a colorist.
No, I was always, yeah, I should clarify, like,
Yeah.
back when I was a kid, like my first passion was to actually do the penciling stuff. And so I did, but I kind of just gravitated more toward color. Because I was able to pick, like, oh man, this was like back in the 90s. And I remember Valiant at that time was making the transition from working with the Doc Martin watercolors to going digital with Photoshop and stuff. So that
Mhm.
was the point where I actually started learning
Oh,
Photoshop and learning how to use Photoshop to digitally color the black and white stuff. And this was maybe like in 97? No, 95. Yeah, like
yeah.
95. I started picking up Photoshop. So it just became
You kind of
yeah,
made
just something I
coloring
kind of
happen.
gravitated toward. Sorry. I'm sorry, Sarah, what's that?
No, it's like you were there when coloring happened, aside from
Yeah, when that transition happened, yeah, I was there. I was working in production at Valiant at the time. And yeah, like wow, yeah, it was a crazy time. It was that big transition. And then I think the original Valiant had shut its doors, and then they were purchased by Acclaim
Hmm.
and then relaunched. And then that's when I started working with this coloring studio. The coloring studio had gotten the contract for like all the books at that for Acclaim at the time. So it would be
So you guys
like,
spun off.
I'm sorry.
I didn't know you guys spun off into its own company.
Yeah. Acclaim, the video game company, wound up buying Valiant
Hmm.
and using their characters for video games like Turok and stuff like that. I don't know if anyone remembers Turok from the
Of
N64,
course, Turok
but
Ninja,
yeah, so that
Shadow
was
Man
like
got its own game. Full Man
exactly.
of
So that
War.
was all the Acclaim stuff, and I started working for this studio, Atomic Paintbrush. Was doing all the books for Acclaim at the time. So I was like one of the colorists in the studio. It'd be like 6 or 8 of us in a room just coloring away at different pages. So that's where I kind of started learning more about Photoshop and picking up, um, I guess, the skill set that to do a monthly book. So I remember I kept pestering the head of the studio, and I kept telling him, I want my own book. I want my own book, blah, 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 blah. So finally, he was like, okay, if you could do X number of pages in the next issue of Shadow Man, then I'll make sure you get credit with the studio. So I remember staying up day and night, and it was a Clayton Crane issue of Shadow Man, and I did like maybe 80% of the pages, and I got my name in the book, and then boom, just started doing more from there. So then, right, so that's what got me into the coloring thing. But my first passion was always sort of illustrating, but I've learned that you could actually utilize a lot of what you learn from illustrating and put it into color, light and shading, anatomy. Like if you have a good understanding of all that stuff, then you'll know where light falls on the body, where shadows will fall on the body, and stuff like that. So yeah, I think coloring is about knowing a lot of light and shade and anatomy and stuff like that. But yeah, just Sorry, I'm tired, guys. I just wrapped up like a Blue Beetle deadline. So I've been
No
up
worries, no worries. We'll
since
get
like
to that
4 in
too.
the
No, we
morning.
got we
I apologize.
got
You
we,
must
we
be tired.
we have
I'm
more
like,
questions
my
for you.
brain
So
is like trailing off. I'm so
get
sorry.
It seems
get
like colorists tend to be working on a lot of things at once, too. I
yeah.
know everybody is in the industry, but you have so many other visions to kind of execute on top of that, it seems.
It is a juggling act because the way I color Blue Beetle is completely different from the way I color Brian stuff. I mean, like, one thing I have kind of tried to develop through the years is adaptability. You know, like, not every, I can't color the same way for every artist. You know, that's something I've learned through the years. You know, not every artist is gonna want everything highly rendered. You know, which is something I tend to do. Not every artist might particularly agree with what my palette choices might be for a particular book, stuff like that. So yeah, it's all a roll of the dice.
All right. So Brian, I mean, let's jump back to you really quickly. So we got a couple more questions for you, and then we'll jump to Will
Oh,
and the
that's nice,
book
Brian.
itself and the
Sorry.
coloring. So it's super cool that you were building these kind of one sheets for the characters. So I think one of the questions we all had was, you were able to design these characters from the ground up, but what was it like adapting these characters versus like Supergirl or Buffy or Witchblade? Obviously, you're working with existing characters, but these are like characters that didn't exist before. So what was the process like approaching this?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Like you say you have to draw Batman or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's, what is that, like 70 plus years of people drawing Batman. And so you could take so much of what you like. If you're a big Frank Miller fan, you could take some of Frank Miller, you could take some of Sean Gore Murphy, some of Jim Lee, some of whoever, and you can incorporate um, those elements you like into your version of it. But when you're creating something from scratch, um, it takes a bit of time. So I did notice that the first issue was me like really trying to find the way they act, the way they move, their facial expressions, things like that. And I think it takes everyone a few issues. So I do think by the third issue that I started to really get a feel for how the character should be in each scene. Um, but as far as when we first started and designing them, um, it's always a fun part. It's always, uh, I think, I think Justin had certain elements like of say Kira that he wanted, that she wore a coat,
Hmm.
she wore a black coat, and it moved, it flowed when she walked around, and so I had to incorporate what kind of coat would she wear, what would her fashion sense sort of be. So I remember I started looking at a lot of I don't know, I guess there's not many fashion magazines anymore, so fashion websites I started looking at, and I started looking at hairstyles, and eventually I found Kira's look. I think it was the hair. Once we got the hair down, which is she has the sort of like pigtail ears, um, that sort of sealed it. And then from
Hmm.
then on, you're kind of like finding the clothing. And then I think early on we jumped on uh, the Bruce Lee influence for her costume,
Yep.
which is making the yellow and the stripes on her outfit. And then from there, um, things just kind of snowballed with her character. And so you're kind of looking for that with each character. You're looking for contrast with each person. So like the whole silhouette thing, if you could find the correct silhouette for each character,
Hmm.
if you could just see their silhouette and identify them, then you kind of nailed it in a way. Um, one thing I think of is when in Indiana Jones, Spielberg projects his shadow a lot onto the walls when he walks in, and it's him, and he hasn't
Hmm.
said a word yet, and it's just you see the fedora silhouette,
Yeah.
and obviously Batman is like so easy. Anytime he walks into the room, you see the pointy ears on the wall, it's him. So, we're trying that with these characters as well. And we think every character has a pretty strong silhouette.
Yeah, you
Pretty
definitely nailed it
identifiable.
you definitely nailed it with Kira with the hairstyle and everything. Like, boom, like you nailed it right on the head. She's so easily identifiable as a silhouette with that design. So, yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, so we're hoping for some cosplay Kiras in the coming
This is
future.
my first. This
Oh
is
my
my
God, that'd be awesome.
first honorable Kira look.
All right.
I mean,
Sarah's on it.
oh, I am obsessed because there's so many cool characters and like I love things that right off the bat you can get a group into. This has it all going for it. People who are really into like actually making armor, you got something there, like everybody's gonna be happy.
Yeah, let's bring up Real C and let's dive into some of the coloring. I mean, there's endless characters. I mean, I can't wait till Sarah sees some of the villains. Although I think you've seen them already. But
I've seen a few, but I didn't want you to spoil too much.
yeah. And I know we talked about this earlier when it comes to the process of coloring, but Will, tell us, what the heck's going on here?
Okay, well, unfortunately, you didn't see this from the black and white stage. I wish I had started coloring it from black and white, but I was about, I don't know, I was in the process of coloring it. So right now you're seeing Kira, she's most identified there. And I'm laying in flat colors for the guys that she's attacking. I'm also laying in the blood spatter and stuff like that. So what you're seeing is sort of a sped up version of the work in process. So what I'm doing now is rendering the outfits for our soldiers, our mercs, I should say. Yeah, they're not soldiers.
What does rendering mean for those of us who are,
Oh, okay. Rendering is what
not
I do is
technical enough? Yeah.
yeah, I'm sorry. Rendering is the light and the shade, basically. It's the modeling, so to speak. It's taking that one flat color and then adding in highlights and shadow in order to bring out the shape of the object. So right now you're actually seeing it on that one merc where I lit his hair and the top of his shoulders. So that is what I refer to as rendering. I'm rendering like the folds in the costume or the hair on his head or the shape of his ears, the way the light would, define the shape of his face or his ear or his hands. So it's just basic modeling that I'm doing there. These are these are slides of black and white into color. Just some examples of what I get and then what I deliver, essentially.
Gosh.
Nice. So while we're flipping through these, then you're going from black and white.
Yeah.
What is obviously Brian had the blue pencils, the lead, the inks. What's your process?
Okay. Well. Okay. Sorry to interrupt. It's a good question. I get the black and whites. I download them. Basically, if they are TIFF files, I will convert them into an RGB file, which is the work mode that I color them in. And this is what allows me to lay in like special effects and lighting effects, because basically it's using red, green, and blue, much like a television would, to bring those colors out. And so I lay in the flat color first onto the black and white. And from there, if there aren't any specific notes, I'll just go ahead and I'll look at what I've done prior on a prior page, and I will open both files and I'll just start, modeling the characters. Maybe I'll work with the backgrounds first. If it's like the city and stuff like that, yeah, I'll usually work on the city first and then work my way forward to the foreground characters from there. So I mean, it'll take hours or days in some instances. There's like a double page spread in the ash can that took me about 3 days to complete from start to finish, maybe 4. But that's just what it takes sometimes, especially the way I work. I don't know if it's a flaw or not, but I'm very detail oriented in a lot of stuff. It slows me down a lot, but it's just I can't help myself. I can't help myself. It's just, there's always more that could be added, or there's more detail that could be done to an
You
image.
mentioned before, probably several times now, that you treat the background and the environment as a character in itself. So you starting there, you're creating that entire vibe before you even get to the leads.
Yeah, pretty much right. Because because it'll basically be like windows and street level light, like street lights, and maybe cars and stuff like that. So I want to be able to get all that done, and because that lighting might actually affect the lighting of the foreground characters. Because I think in one of those pages there, as they were driving through the car, like they're like neon color is reflecting off of them. I don't want to just put basic daylight colors, so to speak. I want the atmosphere of the city to be reflected off of them as well.
Okay, so I have a question for Brian. So real quick, I saw one page here that this one. So okay, so this one you're going from here. They're driving, and there's so much lighting. So are you anticipating that Will, like, do you leave room for him? Like, what's the thought process here? Because look at this here is so crazy with the neon, and then here, it felt like you kind of left it very open, knowing as if you knew he was gonna come in and go crazy, and he does go crazy. Look at this, boom, like.
I didn't know he was going to go this nuts with it. Actually,
Like my pupils dilated with this. Love it.
That's
Like, this is awesome. This is like a total car chase.
It's
You're seeing
incredible.
the lights shine by, and then all right, this guy's head is getting blown off. Sorry, kids.
There's so much texture to it.
Yeah.
blame Pacific Rim.
It's very pretty
Oh,
violent.
I see it now.
So
You see
How
it, right?
actually-
That first panel?
that's
Yeah.
That's
I
the
see
exact scene I was referencing, bro. I'm telling you.
Man.
I must have replayed that scene like 20 times just to like for inspiration and for reference.
So, are you like watching Tokyo Drift or something, and like Fast and Furious, and you're looking at how the nightlight
Oh,
goes?
man,
Or
nah,
I'm curious
I
because you're
have-
capturing that momentum, that the vehicle.
You know what I have?
Tron.
I picked up this book, Tokyo After Dark, which
Oh,
has like great
Ah.
photo reference and stuff like that. You see? Like, this is what I mean. You can never get enough reference for stuff. So yeah, of course, listen, I'm a big fan of animation and stuff like that. So it's just, you add the lighting, you do a few effects and stuff like that. But yeah, like this was like a big inspiration for me in terms of like the background as well, and great source material. Absolutely.
This is actually one of my favorite scenes in the book. I forgot what issue this was from, but she shoots the guy in the head, but whoever is riding the car throws the freaking door at her.
Yeah. This is issue 2, I think. So
Yeah.
there you go, folks. This is issue 2. If you guys want to see this page, you gotta pick it up. You gotta get issue 2.
Awesome.
It's not in the ash can.
So we see the guy who basically shows
Could
up
throw
in
the
the back of the car.
Yeah, this was an instance where like the stuff Brian had sent me was so tremendously helpful, because you have these like warm, backgrounds, and then the characters themselves are cool, so then they just really like pop forward from the rest of the background.
So when it comes to interactions, Brian, obviously we just talked about how you leave some space for Will to come in. To me, you're the director. Will's the cinematographer in a way, just kind of painting the colors. So for you, like when you're designing the interaction between these characters, obviously we're seeing is this Bao, right? One of the bad,
This is
bad
Bob.
guy,
Yeah.
Mhm.
one of the
Yeah.
bad guy henchmen, and he's like towering over her. So when you design these type of interactions, are you kind of thinking a little bit ahead as to when they finally meet, what they're gonna look and feel like, size wise as well as interaction wise? I mean, like
I mean,
he's running at her gun. She's blasting him in the face. You don't give a crap.
Right. I mean, a little bit, but a lot of credit to Justin. A lot of it is in the script already, and we're playing with scale here. We're playing with contrast here. We intentionally designed him to be massive when we intentionally designed her to be a little small. She's a younger woman, and so she's a little smaller, and we just thought it would make a great visual contrast to have this. Can I say one thing about Will's colors is that, so a pet peeve of mine is when characters look like they're colored, say at like 12 o'clock noon, but the background isn't. So like say Superman is on the moon, but he's colored like he's in a brightly lit room, and it drives me insane. And maybe it shouldn't, because maybe it's not the color's fault. Maybe it's the editors pushing them to get things done. Maybe the colorist only had, one day to do 12 pages or whatever that is. But it does drive me nuts. And Will definitely does not do that. Will, you can feel the characters are in their environment here. You could feel the tone of each scene. And yeah, like I was saying earlier, Will, every time we get an email that you have more pages done, it's like click with my phone as fast as I can to see.
I hear you. Yeah, now I'm gonna now that I wrapped up Blue Beetle, you're gonna start seeing some emails again later this week.
All right.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about this page because the guy sticking his hand into the other guy's chest, he's one of my favorite characters. And what's really special about this moment here is it highlights another element of Zero Ghost I would love for you guys to talk about, especially when it comes to color design, the magic.
Oh, okay. Well, for magic, like what I actually do is I sometimes reference emotion wheels and stuff like that. There are actual color emotion wheels that can convey certain moods and stuff. So since this character was using a dark sort of magic, purple is usually reflective of like evil or dark magic. So that's why I chose purple for him. And Brian, did you send like designs as far as like him using energy as well? I can't remember if you sent designs with him using that color, or if I'm just like pulling this out of my head or not.
No, that's you.
Take all the credit. Take all the credit.
So yeah, so right, that would be the reason for the choice. It's evil. It's it's purple is reflective of royalty, of evil, of darkness, stuff like that. So there are colors that symbolize hope, colors that symbolize anger, trepidation, stuff like that. So that's again, that's like something I learned with each issue, with each page. Okay, how can I best convey the mood of this panel? Because really, we talk about pages, but every panel within a page is a unique illustration. When you think about it, it's whether it's the change of the camera angle, or just them having a dialogue. They are unique images within one page. So each time there can be panels where there's like an 8-panel sort of conversation, and from the start of the conversation to the end of the conversation, the mood can gradually change, and you could have like a background color for each panel that could subtly convey the change in that mood. So yeah, so that's color choice, emotion plays a big part in it. And warm and cool, again, like in this instance, those panels 2, 3, and 4, since the characters themselves were in a relatively cooler environment, in order to add contrast, I decided to have that background be orange, and because orange also complements the green, and orange is also symbolic of action. So those would be like those reasons that I chose that background color.
And dude, you use purple again because this guy's using evil magic. It's kind of cool.
It's so cool.
Thank you. Yes, there you go.
It's
Boom.
great for someone who's looking at these characters wanting to recreate them in person, because you completely want that theme, that connection. You feel like that character when you're wearing it. So the more on point your color choices are, it's like Sailor Moon. It's like, you know who you're supposed to be, you know your color, you know your vibe, and you make these characters so fun to want to relate to.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just watching a amazing YouTube video. They were talking about Akira and the use of color for certain scenes, like when there were scenes where there was science involved or something sort of mystical involved, they would use greens. When there was something sinister going on, they would use reds and stuff. So yeah, that's kind of the idea that I try to use with Zero Ghost as well. You know, certain colors matching certain themes and stuff like that.
This makes me miss Hong Kong so much.
Yeah, those I did have a lot of fun with those city backgrounds, because you do all the lights first and then you just duplicate it, flip it, skew it so that it's all reflecting off the water. People always forget lights reflect off the water sometimes. You know, they forget that in some books. Those are the details that I'm always talking about that always drive me crazy sometimes. You know, and that's what makes me so slow too.
But it's so noticeable. Even from, I feel like the more you know, the more details you see and appreciate. For you guys, probably in a negative way, but for us, like learning more, the more of these details we see, it brings us into the art completely.
Speaking of details, I know Brian, you put a lot of details in the art itself, especially look at this young lady's arms as well as the necklaces. There's a lot of details, and even the guys are wearing their bling chains. You know, what was that like as you had to kind of go back and forth? Because I remember there was a few like things that we wouldn't even have noticed when you were like, oh hey, Kira actually has like a little red bracelet or something like in this one scene, and I was like, oh my god, no one ever know, but you caught it. So tell us more about that significance with all these little details that were important to you guys.
Yeah, we try to give each character sort of identifying features. And me being Chinese, I remember my grandparents wearing certain types of jewelry, a jaded beaded wristband, or a red string necklace with a jade attached to it. So I gave Kira some of those details, and whenever we'd go over the art and you'd see Will redo the outline, because I would draw in black and white, obviously. So Will would have to go back and redraw the necklace with the red string. And when you would see it, it would just sort of like finish a sentence in a way. It's like, without that, it doesn't look right. But with it, she looks spot on. And so those were sort of the details we were working on. With these characters specifically, we refer to them as the twins. I don't think they're actually twins. I don't remember if they're cousins or brothers at this point. I think that Justin might have changed his mind, but anyway, they're sort of generic Hong Kong gangsters. So I had this idea that they would wear these really loud Versace shirts with these like paisley and whatever on it.
The 90s are back, bro.
So yeah, I think I don't know if Will enjoyed putting the little squiggles on there or not.
You know, those are yours, bro. Like, I just do a color hold on them, and that's it essentially. I just take your blacks and then I'd add another layer and then just do a hold on them and stuff, and then just mask the area around it.
Okay,
Sorry if
cool. So
that's
not
it got technical there.
not too much more time consuming, right?
Yeah, really. Well, compared to some of the old ways, man, like it's so funny that you were mentioning that natural lighting stuff, dude. Because oh man, that was like such a rookie thing I used to do back in the day. But it was like, it was like something that was kind of beat into you with some projects because they're like, well, why is the skin this color and stuff like that? I'm like, oh,
Hmm.
okay, I was just trying something different. Never mind. Yeah.
So what I like about colors too, often I think it's used to serve a purpose. In this scenario, transition. So what's happening here, and what's the major shift in color tones?
The major shift is so Kira breaks in on these guys. She wants answers. So how
Hmm.
else are you gonna get answers? But take these guys into a kill room. That's exactly what I was thinking when I saw those panels. I'm like, this is like awesome, like kill room. What are you gonna have in a kill room? A single bulb, which Brian so generously provided,
Nice.
and and the bulb isn't the bulb. The only reason the bulb is red is because it's covered in blood. There you go, guys. It's covered in
Oh,
blood. The bulb is covered in blood, so it's giving this beautiful red ambient light off in the kill room. So there was my thinking behind
It's
that
so
scene.
cool. It goes from like, oh, what's she gonna do with these tough guys to like, you're done. Like she's in charge
Yeah,
now.
yeah, and again, like the red conveys danger. Boom. We go from this, naturally lit environment of the shop into boom, and then again, thanks to Brian, that last panel is a perfect example of where you see the light from like the shop or wherever it is. It's like a different sort of light source, but then within the room itself is this red. And then it helps kind of frame Kira there. And again, like what we were talking about, the silhouette, the pigtails. So who it is that's standing, like framed against these guys and that background and stuff. So yeah, that's prime example of like Brian's skill. You're just like inspiring me on a page like that because you go from the shop and then I'm like, oh, this is a great time to be able to transition with color and make it much more sinister.
love it. It's like everyone's worst nightmare: 16-year-old with a Uzi through your temple.
Or
All
just
right.
America.
Welcome to
Yeah,
America.
welcome to America, folks.
So we did a lot of interiors. Want to talk a little bit about cover coloring? I mean, this is interesting. I mean, I think you sent us this reel. What's happening here?
Oh, you're seeing it's a work in process for. Is this the cover to 5, Brian? I think it's 5.
4. I think this
4.
is
Okay.
4. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, like I love covers like this. It's a prime example of just being able to go to town, and I started laying in all the. Brian had put all these flames, so I just wanted to have this really super hot background against this cooler image of Kira there. So right now you're seeing me lay in all the flames, and I wanted to go really sort of bright with the flames, and I took some of the black area and I made that red as well. And part of the reason I just go so bright is just so that people will notice it. I mean, the brighter, the whiter, then your eye gets drawn to it. That's all really it's about. It's about being able to draw your eye to certain elements. It's just like little tricks and stuff like that that pull some things forward and push some things back. So here you're seeing it, the process from the beginning. Started from black and white, and this is me laying in flat color. So yes, this process is just like me just getting the page prepped and ready to work on. So at that point, now I'm working on it. I added some shadow there, and I'm gonna start modeling Kira's body, her jacket, and stuff like that. So that's what you're seeing now. I added in some darker color, and I start modeling in like the highlights of her face, her hands, her ears, the jacket, and then I colored in the dragon with some flat color, then added some highlights to that as well, and blended it in with whatever I modeled on the jacket prior to that. So yeah, and that was it. Yeah, that's yeah. So I go in. I use a Wacom with Photoshop, and with the Wacom and some brushes, I'll go in. I'll model stuff like hair. Go in like in between the white spaces just to add some highlights and stuff like that. Yeah, just a darker spot with a bright highlight across her back. Red edge lights. Because again, like I was telling you guys, I don't know if I said it to you guys earlier, but like part of what I started learning or needed to start learning with coloring is actually thinking in 3D and thinking of the body in terms of 3D and how it would bend and fold and the way light would hit it from one side to another. You know, it's all about planes. Like if there's different light sources, this side of someone's head might be lit differently from this side of their head. So that's what I try to utilize within the modeling as well. And that's what the edge light is for, because she's facing the fire. So like her front would be red, but her back is cooler. But you see that red along the edge of her body because of the ambient light from the fire.
The transformation is insane.
Mm. I love the jacket. I was like thinking like of like a satin jacket when I was coloring it and stuff. It's not quite as shiny as a satin jacket would be, but that's totally what I was picturing.
Now, this process, how long does that final? I mean, I know you could always keep working on things forever, but typically, what's your project time for that?
Oh, something like that cover took about a day. Less than a day. I would say between 4 and 5 hours for that. Yeah, because I mean, it's all about detail. So if there's more detail in a page or in a panel, then it will take me a bit more time to get it done. But in an instance like this, where it's a single figure and the background elements, that's relatively quicker to do.
Yeah, no,
That's why I describe. Oh, I'm sorry, Carl.
Oh, go for it. Go ahead.
That's why I described like the pages as having these unique images within the page, because like each of these panels I kind of treat it as a scene or as a set, or whatever is in the panel I color it. It just has to be done. It can't be ignored. I can't hope that it's going to be covered by a word balloon. Even though I pray and pray, sometimes it is. Just kidding.
So the audience today is getting a bit of a treat because they're actually seeing covers. That's not even going to be included in our next Kickstarter campaign. This is issue number 5, correct?
4.
Four. Okay, cool. So
Should be
4.
four.
So when we come back with 4, this is going to be the cover that kicks us off, because there's going to be some significant life stages that happens. So here's issue 3. I mean, what's happening here, guys?
Oh, this is the big bad battle. I forget this character's name, Brian. I'm so sorry.
Oh God, I'm forgetting too.
Yeah. I know that well, I don't want to give too much away about what her role is.
Yeah.
But this is, folks, what you see on the cover is what you're gonna get on the interior. Like that was always a turn off to me with covers sometimes. You see an image on the cover and then you pick it up and then it's like nothing like what was on the interior. So yeah, this fight you're gonna see within the book. as well. And I remember these scenes distinctly within the issue. And it was a lot of fun to color. I had a blast with this one double page spread where they were fighting, where Brian did like this cool, like he did this cool illustration, and like I was able to like pick up on right away like what he was trying to convey. So I hoped that I did get it across within the color, and I think I did. And it really turned. I was happy with the way it turned out, which doesn't happen often.
Yeah.
This was amazing.
Just the lighting on this is incredible.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun to color. And again, I mean, I really kept the background. I could have added more lighting and stuff, but I didn't want to distract too much from our two foreground figures here.
Even your backgrounds, I mean, for both of you, it's like you have traditional and modern. You have light versus dark, but this is not giving anything away. There could be way more to the story because you're like, this is deceiving. That's our hero, but you've got those danger colors going on. So what's this other lady about? I'm very excited.
Mm-hmm.
Let me try this. Is this working right now? I just pulled these.
Oh, that looks great. Yeah.
All the characters, and so it's
Yeah.
cool. We've talked about character design, but I think this actually gives you a good intro of all the characters and all the drama that's gonna happen in between all of them. So I think who we just
There
saw.
she is. What's her name?
Cool. Yeah, Cool.
Okay.
So Calder, I feel like it's one of your favorites, right, Brian? I see him referenced a lot and pops up a lot.
He evolved. He looks pretty slim here, but I think he just kept getting bigger and bigger.
He got beefier for sure.
Definitely beefier.
He was eating a lot to keep up with.
9-foot bow.
Oh my gosh.
And I remember, like, one of the questions you had was about Kira and her getting tattoos too. What was that? I forgot the significance of that question when you first brought it up.
So Kira is mixed heritage. Her father is Chinese. Her mother is Italian. So I wanted to create a dragon tattoo for her. So it's a double-headed dragon tattoo, with one head being a Western-style dragon and the other head being a Chinese-style dragon. So if you go back to the cover that Will was doing, you could see the dragon on the back of her jacket. And so the top head has the Western dragon with wings, and the bottom dragon has the Chinese dragon with the the mustache and the long antenna and things like that.
And you also use the red ink for her tattoos, which is like just such a cool detail.
It's a little standout thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's the very first Kira drawing I sent to Carl and to our writer Justin to see if we were on the right track. And I think you guys called me right away. You guys jumped on the phone and called me right away and said, "Yeah, this is it. This is what we're looking for."
Slam
So
dunk,
that's how
man.
we kind of knew. We
knew
we were on the right. We were on the same vibe, right?
Yeah, and it's great because Carl. I mean, I don't know why you named him Carl, but he's very kind of got that European look as well, and it's kind of an age-old. Because Hong Kong is like a British colony, so a lot of folks actually dresses up that way with the three-piece suit and all that.
He looks like he's rocking the Seville Row.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really big on tailoring and suiting. So Hong Kong actually has a lot of that.
It's incredible. I know a little bit about the story, how it's very international, and the characters are very, very international looking as well.
Yeah, here's another.
Yeah.
Is this two families? Yeah, this is two separate families, right, Brian?
I think it's three.
Each one is the head. There's
the
three.
heads, the four heads of the opposing family.
The two on the right are father and daughter.
So yeah, Sarah, you're right. It's very, very international.
I think I sent you the reference for the older man on the left, Guai.
Yes,
he is based on. He's based on the coolest man ever from China. He's a male model. He was something like 80 years old or something like that, and he
And
looked
doing
like
runway.
that.
Yeah, with like a six pack.
Right.
Wow.
Oh my. So
Ah, my favorite character, the Ghost
Yeah,
Eater.
Ghost Eater.
So what's
Mine
cool
too.
about this was he doesn't speak. So there's nothing that ever comes out of his mouth or any word bubble. So your interaction with him is it's gonna be a really cool, unique experience in itself. And here's the brothers. Yat Yi.
Yeah,
So
there
Yat
it is.
Yi. So I did help Justin with some of the naming. And Yat means number one, and then Yi means number two.
Ah, okay.
It's pretty funny.
Mhm.
All right. So I mean, gosh, we dove deep today, and I think I speak for everyone when now as I look at issue number one, this ash can, I look at it from a whole new lens. How do you feel, Sarah?
I mean, it's just so incredible. You always find something new the more you look at this. But just knowing that there's no end in sight is what I'm most excited about. Like, I think we're all ready to invest in something with multiple characters. You don't feel like it's like a stretch. Like, this is just so well done. I'm just so excited to be at the beginning of something this cool too. Usually it's like I'm already too far behind or people are so far into this, but really aside from the creators, this is a very unique opportunity to be at the beginning of something great. Follow it along, watch it develop. Possibilities are endless here. And that I get to like know you guys. You're so accessible. That's another thing with this community that Carl, you do such an amazing job connecting people, but you guys are available. I can actually go see you, It could be very busy at that moment, but it's just such a beautiful thing you're all doing and taking this time today to go so in detail, and it doesn't seem like any of my questions are too basic or too annoying for you. So I think it's just exactly what we want people to know. Like, it's always so approachable.
Yeah, I definitely echo that, and I'm sure Sarah speaks for the audience as well. Will, Brian, thank you for taking time out of your very, very busy schedules. Any last words for the audience as you guys take a look at another look at this issue number one after diving into the process and the hours and hours of work you guys poured into the pages?
I
I
was
just can't
just like
wait for people to
hypnotized.
see it.
Yeah, yeah.
Good.
Same here. No, I was just gonna say the same thing. I was just like kind of because you kind of forget sometimes. It's so long ago that I did these pages, and I'm like, oh, I'm like looking at them again with a fresh set of eyes. I'm like, I'm really excited for people to see it, and I'm looking forward to hearing their feedback on it. Honestly, I'd love to. I'm excited. I'm excited for this project. I really feel like I've grown from this project because of this project and learned so much. So I'm so appreciative for this opportunity, and I'm really excited, to be able to share this project with the fans.
Yeah, and we appreciate you guys, and thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sarah, as always, my awesome,
See you
lovely
guys
co-host.
soon, hopefully
And
at a con dressed up as one of your characters.
yeah, and thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, 24/7 Comics HQ at YouTube, Instagram, Twitter now. We'll be a lot more active there, we promise. And if you haven't done so yet, to support these guys and what their work is going to look like coming out very soon on Kickstarter, search Kickstarter Zero Ghost. And if you click notify me on launch, it'd be a huge help. Every number counts. And so if you could tell your friends, let us know how we could do better. And if you have any ideas on how we could get the word out as well, please do let us know. And we'll see you at the next 24/7 Comics Live.
See you guys.
Thanks,
Thanks
everyone.
again.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Thanks.